Chapter 3 Journey Unknown. 2 days have passed. I am baffled at the cell's name, Rupsha, literally the beautiful, also the name of the river that meanders through the southwest Bangladesh, mothering the world's largest mangrove forest, the animal kingdom of Royal Bengal tigers, spotted deers, dolphins, flows to the Bay of Bengal, the backdrop of Amitav Ghosh's novel, The Hungry Tide, the ethos of man and nature woven in aquatic world, the secretive life of togetherness, challenges fraught with perils, yet endearingly spiritual, or for that matter of names given to other cells, picked with literary ruse from the forbidden territory, Jomuna, Podda, Hasnahena, Monihar, an abject mockery of images that conjure up, mighty rivers that nourish us, flowers that cause a romantic thrill in the heart of Tagore's poetic requiem. Is rationality that first casualty in prison, or is it calculate mockery? A derision meant to disorient the inmates. Looks bizarre. A pall of haze and cloud has enveloped the day. It's hard to make out the hour. An occasional breeze carries whispers of the spring yet to arrive, although the cool embrace keeps the lingering touch of winter. Rupsha, just about 100 yards from Urdu Road, hugging the walls, is one of the far northwest corner of the sprawling prison of British era, a short distance from River Buriganga. The cell is but one of the many walled premises for inmates inside one common wall, 30 feet high. I have not counted the number of cells yet, but they look far too many. One-story blocks, a few more, 2 or 3-storied, as if they popped up randomly, but kept securely separated lest the inmates conspire together against their masters. Though built more recently, the walls around Rupsha already have decrepit look. Over 10 feet high, its whitewashed wall turned dirty grey and blackish, the plaster peeled off in places where ferns, some wild flowers, and lone banyan saplings were breathing life. Across right in front of me, a short 30 feet or so away, in another prison quarter where beds in winter flowers, marigold, roses, salvias, have been planted, a surprise, even bewildering, sights in the heartless confine. One room looking like a barrack was the prison cell for Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, where the dreams of Bangladesh was nurtured in the 6-point political charter in 1960s. Another 2-storied old prison block stands alongside for the death row prisoners, mockingly carrying the name of fragrant flower, Hasnahena, a cruel joke, impending stranglehold of death perversely twined in the romantic ardor of life. A sad brush of tender breeze reminds me of the time spent half a century back around old Dhaka, hardly ever noticing these high walls on Urdu roads in Bongshal and Chalk. Flashes of my youth come crushing upon me, exploits of our youthful serendipity, a late-night movie at the nearby Rupmahal Theatre, breakfast at Chalk, Bakur Khani, a traditional specialty of old Dhaka, made of flour, often topped with cheese, at the roadside bakery, phaeton ride back to the dorm or a boat ride further down Sodorghat on Buriganga. Days of innocence and happiness, time has erased those footprints, while I try from within the prison walls to hear the noises of those bygone episodes. A few weeks back, while the waiting game was being played out, I had taken out Umniyat, my niece from Australia, on a tour of our heritage, starting from Shavar Mausoleum in honor of the unknown soldiers of the Liberation War. We took a swing around Old Dhaka for a quick look at the Lal Bagh Fort of the Mughals. On our way back, we stopped at the roadside bakery selling hot Bakur Khani, which we were told had made it to the connoisseur of New York, Bangladeshis in particular, longing to the taste of home in a far-off land that increasingly snapped off old ties. Umniyat was impressed, as was Zarif, our neighbor's son, who, having lived in Dhaka, had never been to this part of this life and the old quarters. The last lap of our tour took us past the high walls of Dhaka Central Jail, sending a pressing deja vu through me. I wanted to turn away from looking at the jail, but a group, mostly women, in multicolored sari, resembling a kaleidoscopic step, jostling in line, caught my attention. My wife, who had earlier been to jail to meet her brother-in-law, Maudud Ahmed, a politician detained for nearly a year, told me that there were visitors who had come to see their near and dear ones incarcerated here. They carried a transparent bag stuffed with goodies, their love and remembrance entombed, to climb the high prison walls, reaching for those otherwise adrift from the list of ordinary human beings. I felt a twist in my heart, thinking of the day, if I ever, of my being inside and my wife and family waiting outside. January 22nd. A cheat carried by a messenger, a convict called Faltu, meaning redundant in jail parlance, announced that I should be ready to be taken to the court early in the morning. The Faltu came later to accompany me through the jail premises, past the bakery alongside Rupsha's boundary, skirting Jomuna's cell, a long barrack more like a storage depot, turning right along the stretch of footpath, another cell hidden within the high walls, in the right and left turn towards the inner gate, with training shades on the left, a billboard announcing cycle repair, watch repair, typewriter repair. I followed him, half in trance, not sure what was meant by court appearance. In the waiting room inside the jail compound, we were joined by 4 professors of Dhaka University, who are here to hear the judgment today. Their torturous saga had started when I was still free. The caretaker government was sailing rather smoothly past their honeymoon period. On August 20th, 2007, an argument turned into a brawl at the soccer stadium between university students and army contingent deployed there without permission of the Dhaka University authorities, presumably to keep eye on the students, who have a history of shaking up authoritarian rule. The students were humiliated and beaten by army jawans, who could never have made it into the classrooms. Given Dhaka University's legacy of protests, the liberation movement, and subsequent War of 71 as their proud heritage, they were not to be cowed down by any army. The campus was seething with anger. The protests soon spread nationwide, engulfing educational institutions throughout the country, students defiantly clashing with the law enforcing agency, including the army. The media photograph of a lone student landing a flying kick on the posterior of an uniformed man became iconic of the fight against tyranny. Tensions gripped the nation. The government clamped down, closing all the educational institutions, including girls were asked to leave their dorms at a few hours' notice, and curfew was imposed. As a mark of reconciliation, the uniformed men were also withdrawn from campus. After an eerie standoff, the army struck back, arresting teachers and students countrywide. But the students were in no mood to back off. Continued demonstration in the campus, an ultimatum from students for the release of the detainees of defiance of the call for calm for the government were about to upset the end game of military rulers. Today the court is to pass judgment on the sham trial of the cases trumped up against the teachers and the students. The prison is abuzz with rumors about the outcome. As we waited, a young man comes limping and the Professor Anwar Hussain embraces him with affection. His leg was to have been chopped off by shadowy law enforcers, for he was the one who had landed the flying kick on the uniformed guy. Although they had stopped short, the torture left his leg fractured. The jail authorities in his generosity agreed to let him sit for his scheduled MA exam in the room next to where he sat. He had spent the night before in a half-lit cell. We were frisked and led into the prison, where the whole lot of others were already packed in. The van is covered all around, and the lone door is locked. Once we were herded in, a silver of grilled opening around the roof of the van, meant for ventilation, gives us a truncated view of the world outside. The van rolls on. Names and clips of old Dhaka pass by. Bongshal, Johnson Road, French Road, Nazimuddin Road, memories of our youth, Halicon days embellished with all that made this world beautiful. The cage disgorges me at the crowded open court premises where I had surrendered in January 16th. Escorted to the courtroom, I sit on the dock and listen absent-mindedly to the brief discussion between the lawyers, I presume mine, and the judge. My presence an irrelevant necessity. A new date fixed, January 26th. Asma, Duli, Anik, Babu, Shohid, and little Monica are there to meet me in the court premises, a strange place to make family. We exchange notes about the happenings of the last few days. I want to fill in the blanks so as not to let my absence disrupt the continuity of existence to where I belonged. Have the birds been fed? Bills paid? The door locked at night? Etc. etc. Asma and Duli are keen to get the mental picture of my new surroundings, life in prison, and how I'm coping with it all. Putting on a brave face, I keep my answer limited to the bare facts, as if talking about a trip, avoiding any contagion of pain and remorse. All the same, we are trying to make a bridgehead between the two parallel worlds so that we do not fall apart, share each other's experience so that the bonds that tie us together are not weakened by the evil that had taken hold of our lives. However, Babu, the young lawyer, is more intrusive and keeps asking questions to hear first-hand account of the hidden part of the world that his legal profession often deals with. The turn comes to take leave. Duli surreptitiously passes on her cell phone, a forbidden act, to say hi to Mridula, who is at school. How are you, Abba? I'm fine. How are you? I stop, emotions just about to overwhelm me. I had often admonished Mridula for her loud voice, unbecoming of a young lady. This time around, she spoke softly. I'm heading for the class. Bye, Abba. A resigned, melancholy voice, reverberating from another world, bidding me farewell. Her tender voice melts away in final obedience to my many admonishments. Take care, be a nice girl, and mind your studies, is my last calm, casual reply, swiftly cut short, lest my choked, cracked voice betray my emotions. I'm again led by the police back to the caged van. Moments of reunion vanished while I watched in anguish wet pairs of eyes of Asma and Duli stand at the realities confronting a prisoner. The afternoon brought a welcome tide for all at Rupsha and beyond. The professor and some of the students are to go home, although their intermediate terms of release and the drama that accompanied them spoke of the evil that shadowed the real world, stronger, vengeful, but beyond reach, mimicking the underworld of the mafia, but blessed by the state power, reminding me of an intimidating Orlean world. Before darkness fell, the professors are hurriedly escorted out of the jail by the eager DIG of prisons, cell phones in their ear, assuring someone outside that they are being released along with the students who are standing among the large crowd of detainees waiting beside Rupsha. As we watch the procession of men walk past our cell, among hurrahs and cheers and applause, Professor Anwar determinedly say he will stay unless all the students are released. Soon enough, they are gone and silence falls like a curtain all over, guards reminding us that it is time to go and be locked up for the night. My early brush here with some of my generation, Dr. Ghaznavi, a 70-plus-year-old retiree, a doctorate in the veterinary science from the UK, tall, well-built, defiant-looking man of yesteryears. He has been incarcerated for over a month. His offense? He was picked up by a member of law enforcing agency from Shantinagar Bazaar on a weekend as he was finishing his groceries on allegation of fraud, a charge leveled against his son. Ghaznavi had no knowledge of the incident, refused to give in to police intimidation, and was arrested and sent to prison, landing in the downstairs sections of Rupsha. Ghaznavi's bravado was infectious. As night took over the jail premises and the dark descends with silence, it was Ghaznavi's turn to entertain the inmates on the ground floor of Rupsha by singing old songs, joined by the youngsters in the chorus, as if in revelry of celebrating festive moment. The guards took a lenient view of his exception. They too needed a break. Who knows? Music may have been the strength to overpower the writ of brute force. Ghaznavi was eventually granted bail. He came upstairs to take our leave, out of his dystopia. He happened to know me from our common anchors in Meherpur and invited me once I was free to join his morning exercise group of super senior citizens called Shotayu, the Centurions, at Ramna Botanical Garden on weekend breakfast parties when they regain their lost calories over a feast of biryani, tehari, sweets, you name it. Overtaken by joy and lingering spirit of his youth, maybe in remembrance of long-lost love, Ghaznavi kept singing as he climbed down the stairs, in his wavering, deep, resonant voice, his arms moving in the air. Priyotamo, Bidai. Goodbye, darling. Goodbye. A full moon shines in sadness. A haze has dimmed its look, maybe in sympathy to my plight. It is all so different tonight. Back at home on our 6th floor apartment in a metropolis over 10 million, the moon has been our unwavering companion. Bathing our bed in loving care, in silent lullaby, I watched her tonight from afar, a lockout secured by iron bars, the city's silhouetted outlines at a distance, the shoreline of freedom, a towering neon ad apotheosizing the difference. I take a melancholy casual sweep of the sky. The wind swings the coconut branches nearby, giving me an occasional view of the full moon making its way overhead. Little do my tormentors know that they fail to cow my spirits, even a notch. I am more determined than ever to cross swords with them, only that I have been robbed of my moments of joy and bliss. Those downstairs are singing in chorus, accompanied by a guitar someone has smuggled in, standard bearers of Ghaznavi.
Ami chini go chini tomare, o go bideshini. Ami chini go chini tomare, o go bideshini.
You are no stranger to me, my dear. Young hearts are reforming the undaunting spirit of optimism, defying the strange hold of prison life, mocking those who want them to lose. Soon enough, the guard come and ask them to shut up. For a while, the prison compound turns into a graveyard, a catacomb of living. The thousands who are locked up in break hushed voice, no noise allowed. The large courtyard, beyond the bakery that hugs the east of Rupsha, and the other side, Jamuna, a red brick British-era one-story building resembling a big warehouse in an abandoned US town, is devoid of a single soul, forbidden territory for those who lie inside Jamuna in rows like corpses in a morgue, a collage of life on the margins of non-existence. In the wee hours of the morning, when it's still dark, everyone, including the new arrivals, are woken up, let out like animals from a pen, counted as they squat on the veranda, lectured about the rules of the prisons, and warned in stern language about non-compliance. With arrival of the first light, the catacomb disappears and the courtyard is abuzz, teeming with prisoners. The night before, the light went off at 10 p.m. After we all went to bed, Rupsha plunged into the darkness. We called out for help, for emergency light, but no one responded. The guard have locked us up and disappeared. Suddenly it dawned us that if there was a fire, we would be cooked alive. After a while, the guard came, annoyed at our screams for help, and hesitantly turned the emergency lights on. We were advised in the morning not to be noisy if we want to be treated with respect. The jail code was clear about dealing with any act of indiscipline. The next morning commenced in gloom and chill. The wind picked up speed, drizzle turned into rain, and that sent all inmates scurrying to the holes of the prison cells. Although the yard in front of Jamuna is usually full with crowd of newcomers called Amdani, meaning imports, it is empty now, having melted away in the womb that seemed to have unlimited capacity. This is the first stop for all new arrivals, usually hundreds each day, recorded and dispatched to different cells, awaiting night in the squalor hellish. Men lying on the floor in rows like carton of fish in the jail's parlance Ilish file. In the dim light, it is an eerie sight of corpses lined up for post-mortem. I draw the attention of Nikhil, a cellmate and an engineer, and to the nest in the bell tree in front of Rupsha, just a few paces across, where a crow is rearing up a chick, defying the chains we are in, making us envious of life, family and affection that are denied to us. Nikhil enlightened me on the merit of bell, which takes almost a year for its fruits to ripe, a rarity in plant kingdom. It is one of its kind and finds mention in Hindu religious scriptures. The shade is preferred place for sadhus to meditate, and fruits are eaten to mellow their carnal desires and those of their female companions. Nikhil makes a wise statement. But the crows seems to have found their branches, a good hideout for mating, I quip. For the crows later in the day, fate had planned differently. This morning, the chick fell to the ground. The community of crows joined in chorus protesting nature's malevolence, only to see the chick breathe its last. I see the lonely mother still searching for her newborn in the nest in the gathering darkness of the evening. Jasim, a tough-looking teenager in one of the faltus, attending to our needs. He has been convicted for 2 years for hijacking when he was a black cab driver. He tells his story nonchalantly, learning his name and that is he is from Faridpur. I tell him about my father-in-law by the same name and from Faridpur. He was the renowned poet laureate of rural Bengal. Jasim has been to Ambikapur, where the poet has been laid to rest, visited the Jasim Mela, held in festivity every January. He recalled the nights spent listening to Jari, Bichar, gaans, the legacies of rural Bangladesh, of its ordinary folks, their emotions and spiritual longings. I'm lost in Faridpur while I'm talking to Jasim. Today he came in Dandaberi, that is, prisoner's chain, designed to make it difficult for a convict to escape, a cruel contraption, 2 steel rings around the ankles with long iron handles, which have to be held by hand to be able to walk. Surprised, I asked him the reason for his condition. I had learned that it was a punishment meted out to the delinquents. I had punched someone on the face in the cell. Jasim replied casually. You don't do that in jail, but why? I inquired. Abashed, Jasim answered, one of the underlings of the Sardar was acting funny with me. Inside each cell, there is an inmate who governs the place once locked out at night, the Sardar. No one can question his dispensation nor will the jail authorities hear any complaints. His lackeys are equally powerful. Young prisoners are often subject to sexual abuses, and Jasim is not one to be cowed and must have encountered such overtures. So Jasim has been punished with Dandaberi and Chalan, meaning transferred to Kashimpur jail, some 40 kilometers away from Dhaka city. Jasim's mother, who sells pitha by the roadside and comes every week with some biscuits and fruits to supplement her son's meager meals in the prison, will now find it hard to travel to Kashimpur. Remembering his mother, his eye brimmed with tears, saddened by his mother's ordeal in the days ahead. Given that I was a secretary to the government, some of the staff showed deferences to me. I availed this privilege and sent words to the Havildar, the boss of the ground level staff, requesting him to consider cancelling Jasim's punishment. Streetwise Jasim knew other pathways too. Instead of wholly relying on my todbir, he made a surreptitious 1,000 taka payment to soften the Havildar and was back on duty the next day without any dandaberi, as if his death sentence had just been commuted to a prison term.